Welcome to the after party. Welcome to the after party. Did you bring some snacks and treats?
Yes, it did.
I hope you got me something to eat.
Maybe.
Welcome to the after party. Coming to the after party.
Right now.
I've been waiting here all day to act like a fool this way. Welcome to the after party. Join us in the after party.
Right now.
Oh, chocolate and dabbing, maybe some microphone dabbing at the after party.
With DJ Eric, Pagey, and Pagey.
No, I mean it's like wild, right? So, and the Grinch is here too.
Yeah. I'm here to steal your hearts. That's what I'm here to steal.
And to
I'm here
steal my monetization. That's the other reason, right?
steal the actual video.
So welcome to the after party. Ben is flexing. If you saw on Twitter, he is in Hungary. I think that's where he's at.
It's clearly not a flex. It's actually probably a cry for help more than anything.
Yeah, so he's there. So since the event's over, I thought it was a great time for us to sort of talk about the whole thing, not just the last episode, but the whole thing. And Pagey's been absent since the very first episode, so this is a perfect chance for him to tell me how wrong I am about everything that I'm going to nitpick. So that's always fun. And he's here to demonetize the stream. It's already been demonetized. Like as soon as I said he was going to be here, they were like, yellow check mark right away. But anyway, so yeah, Pagey's back. We're gonna have a lot of fun today. I want to put this out there though from the very beginning. There's a lot of people who have not had a chance to see Spider-Man, so please be mindful of that. I know that there's like a million spoilers on social media. Whether you're joking or not, because I love sarcasm, just don't even post anything that even
there's only one spoiler to give away. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I'm sorry that's out there, and I'm sorry that's been spoiled. But
so mods in the chat, and actually, you know what? I'm going to promote someone today, someone that has been here and been really solid every day. So, Gwendolyn, would you like to be a moderator for the chat? You've been here like every week for like the last 20 years. Just maintain a little discourse in the chat if you would, and I'd really appreciate it. And if anybody posts spoilers for anything since you haven't seen the movie, if you see anything with the word Spider-Man or anything like that, you can actually just take care of that. So Gwendolyn, congratulations. You can be a moderator, and if you ever decide you don't want to do it, just let me know. We'll take it back. But anyway, thank you so much, Gwendolyn. So no spoilers, please. We're going to talk about Spider-Man on Sunday with the Weekly Geekly, and if Pagey wants to stop in then, because I know that you're getting ready to like be gone for a bit, or you're not going to be around for a bit. But
so for people wondering why I'm back now and not like in January, I'm going to be busy on Saturdays until about like probably like end of February, maybe first week of March. So that's why I said, well, I'll jump in this Saturday because I know I won't be available on Saturday for quite a while. I know Eric needs me.
Yes, of course. But if you want to jump in on Monday, your time, and talk about
why'd you put Monday?
because it's Sunday for me. Like it doesn't exist. It's in the future.
Well, also next week, the after party would be Saturday my time, which is Christmas Day.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is also I want to put this out there. The after party will go on break after this episode until the beginning of January, and then when it comes back, it may just be because the only shows that are going to come back or the shows will come back in the second week in January. So we may do like a after party like preview thing for Naomi and Superman and Lois. But after that, it'll go back to normal Fridays, and the guest rotation will start again. But there'll be like 2 weeks with no after party. But I will be doing some fun watch-alongs with just me, and then if anybody wants to jump in, they can. And those will be member-only chats, but they will be videos that everybody can watch, and those will be on Fridays in place of the after party. So it's a little bit confusing. There will be streams. It just won't be the after party. So don't expect us to be talking about shows or anything because we're not going to be on and doing that. So anyway, and have a good holiday, everybody. Whatever anybody celebrates or doesn't celebrate, enjoy the next couple of weeks after this. And yeah, we'll return to regular streaming with the after party in January.
I know what Eric asked Santa for. And I don't know if it's going to come. I don't know if he's going to wake up on Christmas Day and it's going to be under the tree. But apparently Eric asked for a proper fitting pair of glasses.
Not the big ones.
Large.
Well, some with lenses, like some that actually have lenses on them. That would
be good, if someone threw like a chopstick, it wouldn't go directly into your eye.
I don't know if I'll get them though. That might be too.
I don't know. Too much. I guess the big question for the chat is Eric on the naughty list or the nice list?
Yeah, that's a good question in the chat. You can let me know. So here's the thing. This is a big thing. I'm probably going to catch up with Legends during the break, like between now and January when it comes back, because I won't have anything else to really be watching, during that time. So I'll probably just watch Legends. Have you watched Legends at all this season or no? I know you watched the one.
I think I watched the first episode or two. But yeah, the issue with Legends it's just its own thing, and I think I just don't really care too much about it because it's on its own.
Yeah.
It's a bit out there, but yeah.
It is. I feel even more so now than ever that Legends is just kind of its own show. I mean, if we ever see the characters cross over, it's fun, but it's kind of not within. I know it's in the Arrowverse. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's so vastly different. Like even Batwoman, Supergirl, The Flash, even Superman and Lois to some degree, they have a close enough tone that it doesn't feel too weird, but Legends is just bonkers. So here we go. Multi-topic talk with a $5 super chat. Welcome back, Pagey of the Grinch. I was wondering what you guys prefer between Superman and Lois, Stargirl season 1. Wait, Superman and Lois and Stargirl season 1. Eric, Legends of Tomorrow is better than season 6, but as bad as 4 and 5. Well, that's not telling me much in terms of like what I should be expecting because the show changed drastically between those seasons. But there we go. The Weekly Geekly Omega is on Sunday, so that means you need to go see Spider-Man ASAP. What we prefer between Superman and Lois and Stargirl season 1? I feel like we've answered this before, haven't we?
Probably in the past.
I feel like we have. It's hard for me to pick because those two shows create two different types of stories. If you're looking for a comic book show, something that feels the most comic book out of all of them, Stargirl season 1 to me is like that show. If you're looking for a modern adult depiction of Superman and Lois with the family, then there's that show. They're so vastly different. I don't know which one I could pick. I mean, you can compare seasons of a show, but it's hard to compare two different shows when they're that far apart, right? I mean,
like I think I probably enjoyed Stargirl season 1 more, but that's just because I think it was meant to be more fun, if that makes sense,
right?
In regards to them, like the quality, I think they're probably on par.
Yeah, confirmed. Pagey's on the naughty list. That's been confirmed right here. So there we go. Confirmed. Put a stamp on it.
Hey, don't speak for Santa. Don't speak for Santa.
I did see on your Twitter. I think your gifts are all done, right? You've wrapped everything. It's already done.
Yeah, we try and get it all done in advance. Just so there's no like rush and everything.
Like you're not like I forgot something. Let me go get it right now.
Well, yeah, like because like I guess it depends on families. But my family, for example, does big stuff on Christmas Eve. Like we do Christmas Eve dinner, and then there's like smaller stuff on actual Christmas Day. But I guess it depends on families. Like one of my friends does nothing on Christmas Eve and then does everything on Christmas Day. His family, like Christmas Eve, is like they don't do anything. But then on Christmas Day, it's like hectic.
Well, we've got 3 different days. Like we're doing something on Christmas Day, the day after Christmas, and then 3 days after Christmas. So it's a lot of stuff happening. Yes, Introverted Unicorn, you and Quindolin and all of our other moderators keep an eye on things. All right, Scott here with a $9.99 super chat. In my opinion, Batwoman and Ryan Choi were totally wasted in Armageddon. Also, do you think we'll get a big crossover type event for the Arrowverse 10-year anniversary of Stargirl finally joining? So the second part of that is, I think we'll definitely get something for the 10-year anniversary. I don't know what to expect. Do you think they'll pull anybody back that we haven't seen in a while, like maybe Stephen Amell or anything like that?
It wouldn't surprise me too much if you get like Stephen Amell back. It depends what like they want to do for that whole thing, because I think like if I think Arrowverse 10-year anniversary crossover type thing, like I'm thinking that it could be is like on the level of like Crisis in regards to the cast and everything if they want to do that. I guess the only disadvantage they have is that Supergirl won't be on at that point. I think if like for like 10-year anniversary, it would have been good to have Supergirl still on.
Yeah, that's true.
But they still have Legends, which has been around as longer than Supergirl. Like they started the same season of television, so yeah, like it'd be interesting to see what they'll do. But I'd be shocked if they didn't do anything. But I think Stephen Amell will definitely come back.
Right.
It just depends, I guess, whether he's just playing Spectre. Or
I would love to see. I'd love to see Keenan come back as Wally West. I think that would be a lot of fun as well.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me too much if Keenan Lonsdale came back this season.
Right.
There's no quarantine, so you can just go for 2 days and then.
That was the big thing with the previous season, was that they had so many restrictions.
Well, he was going to be in it. Like he said, he was going to be in it straight up, but it wasn't worth the 2-week quarantine.
Right.
For both him and the show to make it worthwhile.
The first part of this though is Batwoman and Ryan Choi were totally wasted in Armageddon. I've said this in all my reviews. I think you can make an argument for every guest star to be wasteful. I think they were there just to add flavor to the story. I don't think there was I don't know if you'd agree with me or not, but the one character that I think out of all of them that felt underused as a character we don't really get to see was Ryan Choi. I mean, he's not been on a show, so we haven't seen a lot from him. I felt like out of all of them, he's the one that got shortchanged the most in terms of like being used as an additional character. But you could make an argument that all of the side characters could have just been not there. I mean, it's except for Ray. I think Ray did a good job helping kick it off. I think he did add a lot to that first episode. I don't know. Do you think that the supporting characters in the event were wasted or not?
I wouldn't use wasted, because wasted means as if they didn't provide anything. I think they still added stuff to the event. It was just sort of surprising for Batwoman how she leaves like halfway through the episode. Like that was the one that caught me off guard. I didn't expect anything massive with Ryan Choi. The only thing I was sort of surprised with him is that there's only like literally one shot of him in the Atom suit. But then again, I don't know where in that episode he wears it again outside the party. And he didn't need to at the same time. But
you know what's funny is everybody else turned into their nanotech like when Batwoman switched to her suit, and we had who else was there? Sentinel switched to her suit. I'm assuming if we're guessing they used nanotech for their suits, wouldn't Ryan Choi's Atom suit be nanotech as well? I mean, he didn't change at the party, so
I'd assume it would be something along those lines.
So that was a little weird, right? Because if you're going to think that they use nanotech, then obviously he would have used nanotech. So that's a little confusing to me as well. I don't know. I would have liked to see more from him. Maybe they'll use more of his character down the road. I actually thought he was going to replace Ray, but then we found out about the 10-year gap in time, and he was not in present day. Then I was like, well,
one of my concerns was how they're going to make sense to bring in Batwoman for just this like obviously one episode. I was like, how are they going to make that make sense? Building relationships, and they went, oh, it's because it's 10 years in the future. I was like, okay, well that makes sense why you bring Batwoman in though, because I know how you.
It seemed like she was already good friends with Iris anyway. So like in 10 years in the future. So there's that. I really hope they don't have to recast Batwoman between now and then, because another, it'd been very weird. Thank you for the super chat, Scott. Though I think we had another one here from Multi-Topic Talk. $2 super chat for the 10 years. Do you think we'll get Darkseid? I don't think we'll get Darkseid.
I really
if they weren't going to do New Gods in a movie, I don't think they're going to use them for a TV show either.
I really wouldn't care to see Darkseid anyway. I don't know what.
Could you imagine Darkseid on like the TV budget? I mean,
imagine Twitter. Snyder cut. It'd be a Snyder cut.
Well, you know what would happen most likely, and this is the reality, folks. Darkseid would be able to change back and forth from a human to a creature. That's what would happen.
No, I've heard he would just shift into a rock. Not the Rock, as in Dwayne, but just a rock. That would definitely cut down the budget. Just a picture of a rock.
Yeah.
I think that would work.
So this is interesting here. Let me see where Space Fluff goes. I understand why Eric Wallace didn't call this a crossover now. I think it's because of the time jump. That's probably why, because it wasn't a true crossover in that sense. Like most of the characters, with the exception of Ray, were out of time. They weren't normal characters in time. So from that standpoint, I get that. But it was confusing the way one actor, like Grant, was saying it is a crossover, and then he was saying it wasn't. So I get that part. I wish they would have just not even had that complaint about what it actually is, because it added to a lot of unnecessary like bickering back and forth between people. All right, so what we're going to do while you guys ask questions, feel free to drop any questions. We're going to kind of run through each episode up to the finale and just give a brief thoughts on it or whatever. Now, we talked about the first episode. You were actually here. We did a after party talking about the first episode. It was the setup for everything. I think it was very strong. I think the first episode was one of the best episodes in the 5 because it did create like the mystery of everything. And then the second episode, which you weren't here for that was Barry's worst day ever. That was one of the best episodes. I think.
From my inside sources, it was also the worst after party ever.
Was it?
I'm joking.
Yeah, I know. You were here, but you weren't in this. You were here in the chat.
I was here in spirit, mentally and physically. I think in the chat for about 10 minutes.
So the second episode, though, was Barry's worst day ever. And that was probably one of the most exciting, like, Flash episodes we've ever had. And I want to say this before we dive into any thoughts on this. I love this event. I hope we have more stuff like this, like where one show does like a multi-episode story where other people kind of jump in, and it's something with high stakes, because I would argue that this is one of the best events that we've had that wasn't a major crossover. Like, I think it was just like, it's better than some of the crossovers, I think, in a lot of ways, right? Would you agree with that?
It's better than like the first Arrow Flash, well, actually the first two, and Invasion. I think I enjoyed it more than Invasion.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably on par with Elseworlds, maybe.
Okay.
I'd say. I've seen people saying it's the worst. I'm like, in regards to a specific event, and they like advertise it has its own name, it's like something part 1, part 2, blah blah blah.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely better than those first two Arrow and Flash ones, and I think it's better than Invasion.
Right. It's definitely better than Invasion. I think Invasion was one of the weaker ones, honestly. But I quite enjoy this, and I actually think this is probably, I'm thinking through everything that Eric Wallace has done since he took over. Bloodwork was the best initially for me in terms of Eric Wallace's stuff on the Flash. This is probably the best now. I think this is his best work on the Flash, right? Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I quite enjoyed it. There are issues we're going to talk about. There are things that I sort of had some concern about. But I think overall, this is very comic booky. It was very fun. There were some great moments between characters. And yes, some of the crossovers were unnecessary, but a lot of times crossovers in comic books are unnecessary. They don't always have to be there. They're just there to add a little something to the story. So for me, I think it was a success. I think overall, for me, 4 of the 5 episodes were very solid episodes. And even the one that wasn't that solid, it's mainly because of my issues with the way they explained how all of this came together. And ultimately, I don't even know if that matters, because the event itself wasn't really about the details of how it all happened. It was more about getting from where we were to where we are. And so it was the journey. And as Pagey would always tell me, don't judge something before it's done. So that's why I wanted to wait till it was over with before I decided whether or not those elements ruined it for me. And they didn't. I enjoyed it, and I had a really good time with it. I saw some people saying that it's one of the worst things the Flash has ever done. I don't know how that's possible, but
we like to call them idiotas. Idiotas.
Caitlin is a savage. Caitlin is the best. Caitlin #1, Team 4 with the $2 super chat. You know, it's funny because she didn't get a lot in the event, but her scenes with particularly the scene with Eobard in the final episode was probably one of the best scenes we've had in a while with her character. Because she's been stuck in that like Frost/Chillblaine thing for a while now. So that was really solid. And it was a lot of throwbacks. Did you think Caitlin was going to get more in this event? Totally. Because she didn't get as much as I thought she was going to get, honestly, based on what we were hearing.
It was hard to involve anyone outside of, I think, Barry and Iris too much in this event, just because of the actual storyline.
Mm-hmm. 'Cause, 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 'cause
But then again, you think of like how much like Allegra is in the event. I think Allegra
exactly. Yeah, I think that's the
Caitlyn.
problem. That's the problem. Yeah, Allegra was in it a lot
if,
more.
If Allegra wasn't in the, and maybe even Chester to an extent, I can't think of the top of my head how much Chester was in it, but a lot of Caitlyn's scene were in company of like Cecile, Chester, and Allegra, or like a combination of them. But there was not much like just Caitlyn and someone else, like one other person that's not in that group. So maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's why I think like Allegra and the others were in there more than Caitlyn. I'm not too sure.
Yeah. Yeah, Introverted here says Caitlyn got a backseat for most of it, but when she was used, it was well done. I'll agree. I think Frost had a cheesy moment with Chilblain in episode 4, but Chilblain's cheesy, so
the thing is that people get so triggered by Chilblain, but he's meant to be like that. Like that's obviously what they're intending to do. He's meant to be campy. He's meant to be like almost like a personification of the 90s. He's meant to be like that.
He's a ridiculous character, and they know that. That's the thing. They're aware of it.
In my episode review, I said like he was pulling off Street Fighter moves, and he looks like a Street Fighter character. Yeah. I think that's exactly what they're going for.
Well, if you think about it, and this is why I didn't call it out in my review, because I didn't think it was necessary. Damien was a little bit cartoony in the crossover as well. He had cartoon moments. So you've got Chilblain versus Damien Dark, and they're both very similar cartoon-like characters. So as much as I was like, why are they having like a hand-to-hand battle? At the same time, I'm like, it's Chilblain. Like,
so X Sound Ninja goes, that doesn't mean we have to like it. That's fine. You don't have to like it. But I've seen people saying that they're like mishandling the character. That's the intention of the character is there. They're actually
listen to his name. Yeah, Chilblain.
They're nailing the intention. Yeah. Like he's meant to be corny. He's meant to be campy.
Yeah, I agree. Gary with 199 super chat, is the Flash getting delayed later than March? Well, it shouldn't be. I know that Candace, I think, posted on Instagram, was it yesterday, that they're wrapping up for the break now?
I think I think they're wrapping up episode 11. I think. Yeah.
So they should
11 or 12. I think that they're doing at the moment.
So they've got another like half dozen episodes in the pocket, so they're good to go.
Yeah, so I don't think so. I don't know how long their break is for. I'm not too sure, because I think I saw somewhere that some only go for like a 2-week break.
This comment. Leave Gwendolyn wherever she is, or leave Supergirl wherever she is. Yeah. Gwendolyn said leave Supergirl wherever she is. That's funny. So anyway, yeah, I didn't have a problem with Chill. First of all, he didn't really matter that much in the episode. Like they were just there to do the scene. If there's any travesty to that scene, it's the fact that was the one that Ryan Choi had to show up.
Hold on. Okay, so can I give you a hypothetical situation? Chillblain's next appearance, whatever episode it's in, whether it's episode 6, whether it's episode 16. Right Said Fred, I'm Too Sexy comes on, and he walks in the outfit.
Well, they already have rights to the song because they played it on Stargirl.
Yeah, played it on Stargirl, yeah. So what are your thoughts if that scene takes place?
I actually wouldn't be mad about that because of his character. I mean, it really depends on the character. Like when I get upset about that stuff, it really depends about, like, for example, I love Return of the Mac with Damien because it was Legends and it was the Damien of Legends. So it was funny. So yeah, it really depends on the character. So Gary with 1 eye super chat, is the Flash getting a season 9? I would assume yes. I mean, there's nothing that I have seen, any red flags that tell me that any of the characters are having issues with the Flash right now. Typically before a show ends, you hear about people not coming back or announcing their exit or whatever. And I haven't really heard anything like that. You're expecting them to get a season 9, right?
If season 8 was the last season, it would have been announced like ages ago.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying like 2 weeks ago, like months and months and months ago, it would have been announced.
Scott with a 499 super chat. Do you think that Killer Frost, Superman, Supergirl, Stargirl, Black Lightning, and White Canary will all return for the 10-year event? I want all of those for sure. So I'm going to guess Killer Frost will be there. Superman, I don't see why not, unless they just decide they don't want him to cross over, but for a 10-year event, they probably would. Jefferson, I mean, Cress shows that he's willing to come back. I don't see why he wouldn't. White Canary, I mean, I'm pretty sure Legends will still be on. Legends will be the last show that ever gets canceled in the Arrowverse. I'm calling it right now. Stargirl, I don't know. It depends if they decide to cross it over. Are you anticipating Stargirl crossing over anytime soon with the Arrowverse or no? I mean,
if they're going to do it, the 10-year. If they do it, it'll be the 10-year event.
Okay.
Because the issue with it is that it airs at a different time. It's a summer show. All the other
and it films in Atlanta.
Well, I don't think necessarily the Atlanta thing is so much of an issue now. It would have been last year 100% because of, hashtag yikes. But I think the issue is just the fact that they aired, so they can't do like, oh, 2-night event, Flash and Stargirl. They can't do that because they air at different times. So I think the time you'd possibly see it is that 10-year event where it is a 3-4 episode event where it's Superman and Lois, maybe Flash, Batwoman, Legends, or something like that, or even if it's only a 3-night or something like that, whatever they want to do, and then Stargirl guest appears or guest stars in an episode or two.
All right.
But I don't think you're going to see like what we saw with like Arrow previously, or even like other shows and stuff like that.
So Gary dropping another 1-9 super chat with a question I've not seen from Gary. Do you think the rest of the shows will get renewed? Well, what do we have now? We have Superman and Lois, which is almost a guarantee to get renewed for another season. Batwoman will almost guaranteed to get renewed for another season, regardless of the people that don't like it. I think Flash is going to get renewed as well because again, it is their biggest show at the moment. I don't see why they wouldn't fight to keep that show around, to be honest. Legends of Tomorrow, like I said, I think it's going to go on forever. I think it's an unkillable show at this point. It doesn't really matter how good or bad it does. They seem to love the show and the characters, so that'll probably stick around. Naomi, I don't know. We haven't seen the first season. I want to briefly talk about, there's two things I want to talk about before we move forward. There seemed to be a little drama about Naomi because of the synopsis that was released or the interview that was released about it. Are you concerned about the show based on what you read? Because I mean, it does seem like they're trying to change it up a little bit from the comics.
I don't know. Remember people blew up about the Superman and Lois synopsis when it first came out?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to judge it until it actually starts.
So you're not concerned at all. You're just like, I want to see the first episode.
You can make yourself look like quite the fool by judging it off words rather than the actual show itself. Because you got to realize it's not like, I doubt like the showrunner or the producers are the ones exactly writing that synopsis down. It'd be probably handled by the CWPR or the Warner Brothers PR people that write that, that put that together, and they can use weird words and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'll say this also, that I learned my lesson with Lex Luthor. I think that was the last time that I had an outrageous video.
Well, I think you've learned more than one lesson, but we'll use that one as the example.
That was the one that I remember. I was like so pissed off about John Cryer because I'm like, how is he going to do it? He doesn't make any sense.
Well, wait, was this during the Marga Eric saga?
It may have been during like that dark era, dark era. Yeah, all the red. Anyway, but yeah, I typically have questions, but I don't always think it's going to be a train wreck. And I think that's the difference, is that people need to not be so concerned with it being a disaster until it comes out. So we'll know soon enough. Naomi will come on right after Superman and Lois, and we'll find out about it. Lance here with the $9.99 super chat and a Team Eric member here. Pagey in the 10-year event as a doppelganger of Oliver Queen, except he really wants Iris West after.
Hold on. Iris West will really want me.
Oh, okay. There we go.
See, there was plans for a season 7 cameo, but didn't work out because of COVID. Couldn't travel, so yeah. All right,
let's make that. We'll make that happen. Gary, the 1-9 super chat, is Stargirl getting a season 4? I mean, I'm guessing so. I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, they seem to be really happy with the season 2 stuff. So
I know for a fact it does well on HBO. It came out on HBO Max last week or the week before, and it performed well on there.
If there's any show you should be concerned about, guys, it's Titans. Let's put it that way.
Why? What happened there?
I don't know. It's just a show that I just being edgy.
Well, what's new?
Exactly. So back to the Flash, though. Episode 2 was Barry's worst day ever, which I thought was a really solid episode. Then we had episode 3, which was the Black Lightning event where Barry ran away and had to get Jefferson to try and take away his powers using some device or whatever they had built that would allow him to like separate Barry from the Speed Force. That was also the episode with Iris and Cecile, which is one of the, I think, the worst scenes in the whole crossover was the Iris and Cecile moment they had in the garage. And that was also a really strong episode for Iris in terms of her her investigative story, and finding out that there was some foul play done with Joe because she was like, I believe something's happening or whatever. What did you think? I thought episode 3 was really good, even though it didn't have as much Barry as the other episodes, because I think the stuff between him and Jefferson was really strong. What did you think of episode 3 compared to 1 and 2? Were you still excited with it? Were you good? Any issues?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I was trying to remember back to what I thought initially and just the episode in general.
It's the one where Cecile has to find Top and they...
Yeah, oh yeah, I know what the episode is, and like it's Barry's in the Hall of Justice and everything. Like this is the and by the way, this confirmed my little information I got, by the way, how they were filming the episodes out of order and like multiple at time, how they're filming episode 3. So
because of the time that Cress was there versus when the episode was aired, right?
Yeah, boy, got it right and was told the right thing. So haters, line up. Anyway, yeah, I enjoyed this episode a good amount. It's just that I think the issue is that because of where they filmed the episode, because Grant wasn't available, so I think that they went and had to pretty much do a lot of this other stuff that's outside of the Hall of Justice just with the side characters. And I think they just sort of had to like push some dramatic stuff over the line here and there. But for the most part, I enjoyed this episode. It definitely wasn't my favorite episode, like especially because episode 2 was so good.
Well, at that point, I think I was ranking them. I think it was like episode 2 was my favorite, episode 1 was my second favorite, and then episode 3 was my third favorite. I think is how I had it listed. I believe, not totally sure, but I think that's where it was.
I think at that point mine was 2, 3, 1, because 1's really slow. It just does a lot of setup.
Yeah, I could see that. But that doesn't mean it was bad. That was just where I was ranking it. Laura says, "Do you think the CW is playing with the idea of a show with Mia, Bart, I don't know. That's a lot in one series, to be honest. We'll talk about this when we get to it. I want to talk about Mia, but I want to wait till we get to the episode. As far as Bart and Nora, I don't have a problem with them being in a show. A show with Mia, though, I don't know if that's where with the direction I would want them to go in with that character. All right, so then we had episode 4, which I think for me was the worst episode, but again, only because I didn't like the explanation of how everything happened. I did enjoy the stuff with the Reverse Flash Barry versus the Flash Eobard. I thought that was fun. I think that the Iris and Ryan Wilder scene was really strong. Again, and I had to remind people because in the episode, I felt like Iris was being used as a plot device, but this wasn't our Iris. This was the Reverse Flashpoint Iris. So it wasn't the one that we had in our timeline. This was a completely different Iris that had a different life. So her being not the same, I mean, she was the same, but not really the same character. Which is one of the other issues I had with it, with the whole, like, giving the power of love with the Speed Force or whatever to Barry. And that's how they ended up, like, doing the Armageddon thing at the end. But I did enjoy the episode. I think that this, again, was a good episode for Tom and Grant. And I thought it was a fun episode in terms of like the fight scenes and things like that. And I think Damien was really good. I quite enjoyed Damien. A lot of people didn't really mention him, but did you enjoy Damien in the episode? I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah, it was probably my favorite Damien, I think. I was trying to think of like the Legends Damien in certain seasons, and I think I just really liked, even though it was short, I still like this Damien quite a lot. Probably the most that I've liked him.
Because he was like a combination of Damien's for me, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
he was like, he had the evil stuff that we got from Arrow, but then he was also kind of silly a little bit, like he was.
And also, I think it was like he got to play that over the top comical Damien, which is like the one you saw in Legends, but with a more focused storyline, like you had with him on Arrow. But on the Arrow version, he wasn't that. He was like like over the dark and serious villain and stuff like that. Right. So it was sort of like a mix of the best of both worlds with him on the Flash.
Yeah, because there was also this funny playfulness to like Barry pretending to be evil, and that's why they kind of made Damien. They were able to do the campiness with Damien, so I thought that was kind of fun. And then we got introduced to the PED, which was the device that they used with the Time Stone to kind of revert things back to normal. That was kind of the MacGuffin of the episode. And that leads into something that happens in episode 5. So let's jump into episode 5, which we had this week, which was the end of Armageddon, which kind of wrapped everything up and set up some other stuff or whatever. So in this episode, we have an issue where Eobard is stuck outside of Reverse Flashpoint, so he's not from the timeline that he created, which means he is being erased from reality, and so he needs help from Team Flash. And there's this moral dilemma on what they should do here. And then Despero's kind of in the wings. He's decided that he has to do whatever it takes to get rid of Eobard, because now Eobard is the threat, and that's what he needs to take care of. And of course, that has Mia in the episode. Now, the thing about Mia is, I know that we talked quite a bit about the backdoor pilot at the end of season 8 of Arrow and how it felt so weird and out of place, and et cetera, et cetera. And Eric Wallace made a point of saying that we should watch that backdoor pilot again before this episode, because this episode would tie up some of the loose ends from that episode of that backdoor pilot. But it didn't really, right? I mean, it didn't. I mean, the only thing we learned is that maybe William is being taken through time or something. But that's the only thing we really know, because it just kind of kept the carrot dangling. And then some people were wondering if that means that Mia is going to stick around on the Flash or in the Arrowverse. What are your thoughts on that, on the Mia stuff, like just in general?
I don't know. I'm a bit odd with like her appearance, because like it didn't change my opinion on her for the better or for worse. It just sort of like, okay, well, it's the same. Right. Like I don't really have too much of an opinion change at all. It's just that she clearly had the worst scene in the episode, which isn't a good thing to be leaving that with. So,
in my opinion, to be completely honest, I think this might have been the worst scene of the entire event. It ties very closely with the Cecile and Iris scene.
I don't know. Are you forgetting the Chester and Allegra stuff? I guess that was multiple scenes, though.
Yeah, maybe the stuff. Episode 4 was a special episode.
That was just terrible. The Chester and Allegra stuff, and like that's why Alex Danvers in the event to be like some sort of like romantic.
I must have blocked that out. But yes, that was one of the other weak ones. So if we're talking about a mixed bag of bad scenes, I think the Iris Cecile stuff, the Allegra, Chester, Alex, Ryan stuff, and then this one. These were like the weaker scenes of the whole crossover, but this was a really bad one. The one with her and Iris. I thought it was just really awful.
Yeah. And we're talking about that first one with the boxing.
Yeah.
For people wondering.
Because I think the rest of the episode was a lot of action. There wasn't that was very talky. So that scene to me also felt the most like one of our typical like Arrow scenes. It was like a reverse pep talk. Basically, it was Mia telling Iris, save your pep talks for someone else because they're not going to work on me. And then she had like this moment with Iris where she made her feel awful. Also, somebody was saying there was a lot of plot holes in Felicity's story. Did you catch any of that? Like the fact that they were talking about her as if she still existed, but she's supposedly with Oliver. Like
she exists in the present day.
Right.
Were people legitimately confused about that?
Well, no. I saw a couple comments on social media, and I think one under my video or whatever, that Iris was talking to Mia about Felicity as if she was still present with Mia in the future, and that's not the case. But I don't know if I took that away from that scene or not.
Oh no, I thought it was because they were in the present day, and she's literally not that far away. She could just go and meet her. And they've already met in the present day, so it wouldn't be a timeline thing. Yeah. They met in Arrow season 8.
Mm-hmm. Bobby, you should have jumped on with us about it. I didn't know you were going to be around. He goes, why does taking Thawne's negative Speed Force away mean he doesn't get erased from existence? I mentioned that in my review, actually. I know my review is quite long, so I'm not sure if a lot of people watch the whole thing. But yeah, I was a little bit confused about that as well. Him blinking out of existence was due to Eddie dying again, right? So, I mean, shouldn't he still go? I saw there's a second half of your question here. Because Barry explained that more or less set things back together with him being in danger because of season 1, Eddie catching up with him. So maybe I'm confused here. And Boba, that is a good question. I did ask that question in my review, and I don't know if I have an answer for it, or even a theory. But I forgot about that. I didn't forget about it, but I didn't think about it. So I was under the impression that Thawne that created the reverse flashpoint was disappearing because he was in the reverse flashpoint, and then that was gone, and that's why he's fading away. But then I guess it makes sense. It's because of the Eddie thing from season 1, meaning that when Barry reset everything, he would have been fading out of existence. That's the right way to look at it, right? That's the correct way. I'm getting myself confused
now. The
now.
timeline thing it could be a combination of everything. It's like confusing. I don't even...
But honestly, like every nitpick that I have for this event stems from the convoluted. So basically the idea of him taking away Thawne's speed force and that saving Thawne from being erased didn't make any sense to me. That was probably one of the biggest things where I'm like, really? And then I realized that the entire reason why they had the Injustice Protocol in episode 3 was to set up for episode 5. That was a setup for what they were doing with Eobard in episode 5, so that we wouldn't go, how does that work? Why is that a thing? We had already seen it before in episode 3, so here we are in episode 5 with it. And they were doing the juxtaposition from Barry losing his speed to Eobard losing his speed. Also, I think they did it because if they gave Eobard the Metacure, it would be harder to explain if they decide somebody else to have the negative speed force later on. Because of the negative speed force leaving Eobard, that leaves the concept that maybe somebody else becomes the Reverse Flash, right? Is that the reason why they did that? I feel like that's the reason why they did that.
Yeah, I fell off halfway through your talk.
The reason they didn't use the Metacure on Thawne is because they want to have the negative speed force floating around out there so it can pick up another.
Well, also it's because the Metacure, because it's, didn't they say that, was it in season 7? Was it last season or season 5? It was one of the seasons where the Metacure was a thing, that it could easily just be reversed.
Well, they had the whole case with Frost in the Metacure.
Yeah, but I think the Metacure first came in season 5. I think.
No, I know what you're saying. What I mean though is that they were acting like it was an in-game thing for Frost, meaning that if they did it, they didn't know the effects it would have on her.
Yeah.
So, but they made it seem like it wasn't reversible at that point. So I don't know if that's changed.
Well, is it
then?
Would the Metacure work on Thawne?
I don't know. They didn't even mention it.
Yeah,
that's
because
the thing. They never even talked about it.
Because in the usual sense, he's a meta-human, but in the show's context, he's just a powered being.
Yes, but so is Barry in that sense. Like they're both...
No, because Barry got it from the actual particle accelerator incident.
Right, but Eobard recreated that incident to give him power, though. That was the whole point, right? In the future, he recreated
Yeah, but did they say specifically that same thing? Because that was a younger... because that was a younger Eobard Thawne.
It was, but what I'm saying is that
it wasn't the older version that did what he did to Barry, so he was creating his own speed in another way. So I guess that's the issue, because
you're saying
details, you know
okay,
I mean?
so you're saying that basically, since we don't know exactly how Eobard got his powers, we're not sure what the
Metacure because we haven't properly explored that. We got like
but they didn't even try it though, is what I'm saying. It wasn't even mentioned. So from their perspective, they didn't even attempt to do it.
Yeah, like they should have had like a 20-second line where someone goes, Metacure? Oh, he's not a metahuman. Wouldn't work.
Right. But I ultimately believe the reason why we got that big scene with like the negative speed force leaving him is because someone else is going to become the host for it, or later on they want Eobard to get it back somehow. That's my impression. Because if they gave him the Metacure, we wouldn't have that big moment, right? He would lose his power. So
like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it would be anticlimactic, because imagine that scene where Barry is like doing, the Palpatine thing to him with lightning or whatever. That scene was a big
wasn't it more
scene.
like a Kamehameha?
It may have been. I don't know. It was something.
I don't
one of those.
I don't know. I'm not a Star Wars shield like you. I'm not a gimp, so I'm not going to bring that up here.
Well, either way, the whole point of that scene was to have that big moment. But I did argue that I was a little bit confused about it, but that didn't even confuse me as much as Eobard's plan. I want to talk about that, and then we're going to take a break into a Pagey's pick, because I know you want to hurry up and demonetize the stream.
Hold on. Did I bring it?
You want to hurry up and demonetize the stream, but...
Oh, okay. Oh, by the way,
yeah,
I need to ask this for the Americans in the chat, because I love a punt. I'm in the old Betters Club. We're confused, because isn't like COVID messing with everything over there at the moment? Like people are just getting COVID. Isn't like COVID,
it's the same as it. I mean, it's. I
don't know, because I keep hearing like it's like swarming everywhere, and like I know you don't care, but like players keep getting taken out of teams. And
I don't want to downplay how bad it is, but it is doing essentially the same thing it did last Christmas, but it's the same groups of people. It's people that are not vaccinated that are getting it mostly. So, yeah, that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah, I know it's affecting the NBA. Trust me, I know. I've been watching it. I'm like, God.
Well, the problem is that they're trying to put on like these live events. And if one, say for example, it's just like with the Flash, like I think Cardi B was going to be part of something, and one person in her dance crew got it. So the entire group had to pull out. Because
are you that dance member?
I was.
You were, okay, so Eric's confirmed COVID. Okay.
Well, I don't think they got it. Let me rephrase that. I don't think they got it. They were exposed to someone who had it, and since that happened, they have to take the 10-day break, which means they had to pull out of all their holiday stuff. So yeah. Oh wait, here we go. Gamer Man with the $5 super chat. Joe acted out of character because season 2 he pulls his gun out on Harry thinking he's Thawne, and now he tells Barry and Iris it's bad. Do we want to talk about this now? Do we want to talk about that scene? I mean, we can talk about it, I guess, since we're already here. I thought, okay, so I had a similar thought process as you, but here is the way I look at it, and the chat can feel the way they feel about this. There's a big difference between Joe choosing to do it and allowing his kids to do it. Because if Joe chose to do something, that's on Joe. But if his kids choose to do it, he doesn't want them to do something that would that they would follow them around for the rest of his life.
Joe entered a career in an occupation where he knew that he would most likely have to take a life, most likely at one point in that career. He's a cop who holds a gun, who would patrol the streets. He's probably going to have to shoot someone, whether it's meant to be fatal or just as like a protective thing. Like if he gets in a shootout, he's not going to say, hit me. Like he's going to obviously fire back, which can result in the killing.
Yeah, see, do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, it's a flawed thing that parents do, but it is a thing. How many times have you wanted to do something as a kid and your parents are like, don't do that because I know it's going to hurt you, and then you do it anyway? Like, that's what parents do.
Yeah, so, but also, and then Barry's in the position where he doesn't have to do it.
Right.
There's always another way. And they've proven that in the past, and Joe's been experienced that for like, what, 8 years, 7, 8 years?
And I will say this, that I think Joe being the voice of reason there was important because no one else in that room, they were all new team members except for Caitlin.
Hypothetical situation.
Yeah.
Allegra storms out and is the voice of reason. Can I get a positive review reaction on that hypothetical scene?
Thumbs up if you think Allegra would have been the one to be the voice of reason, would have been good. And thumbs down if you think that would have been the worst thing ever.
Would we have gotten a rant and review Allegra special if that
we probably would have. We probably would have.
Hold on. Another hypothetical situation. It's Chester and Allegra just after hooking up, holding hands, and they give the speech to Barry and Iris together. They are the superior couple within Star Labs now, and they give the lecture. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. That would have been a whole video on that. A whole video. Khalif, I actually agreed with Barry and Iris, and I still think that they should have just let him fade from existence. But it's not the same as dying. Like we've discussed this before. There is a difference between someone getting erased because of a change in time and dying. There's a difference in my opinion, but we'll see. Boba, anything that Thawne does in the future is now on Joe, just like the whole of Armageddon is on Barry. Yes, I do agree with that. And I will say at the end of the episode, when Barry thanks the team for making the right decision, he doesn't know if it's the right decision yet because we haven't seen the ramifications of it. We don't know what Thawne is going to do in the future. So he might feel good about his decision, but that doesn't mean it was the right decision. And I believe, because it is a show about villains and heroes, that ultimately Thawne will come back in one way or another, or the Reverse Flash will come back one way or another, and that they will be like, we should have just let him fade from existence back at the beginning of the season, or whenever he shows up, because that's just the way it is. But hashtag Barry and Iris were right, and I have to say I love that Iris walked in with that truth bomb in the room, like when she was just like, "You guys weren't here. You don't get a say." I love that. That was one of the best.
Yeah, like you didn't even go here moment.
Yeah, I mean it really was. Here. Like she was like, okay, so the three of you are new. Here's your L. Here's your L. Take your L. Take your L. I mean, that's kind of the way it was. And I mean, in reality, like they're talking about Thawne like he's just an everyday redeemable like villain of the week, and that's not the character that he is. So
like, what was their most altercation with him? When Nash was taken over, and even then it wasn't like. It was like half and half because Nash was fighting it off.
Yeah, because it's like the difference.
Chester wasn't even there. I think it might have just been Allegra.
It's like the difference in having some of that, like the hottest pepper in the world sprinkled on something and actually eating a whole pepper. Like it's a big difference in that when it comes to Thawne. So,
or it's like the difference between us seeing you chalk on cam and actually seeing you on the dance floor.
That would definitely be the difference there.
Yeah.
Ash here, do you think Barry's decision to save Thawne will lead to Caitlin potentially leaving Team Flash at the end of the season? No, I don't think so. I think that she was. I think she was okay with whatever decision they made, but she was committed to like not saving him. And that was it. Like, it wasn't one of those things where she put her foot down. I think she was just like, it was a moment that was there to help us understand Barry and Iris's decision. I don't think it was a personal moment that's going to matter with her leaving the team. Also, it may be setting up like, something with Ronnie later on or something. Because they've been name dropping him quite a bit, which I think is definitely a thing. So someone was saying, was Matt Lesher in town when they were filming? I keep seeing his
he
name
was
pop
in
up
town.
the
Like they would have been filming maybe like an episode 7 or 8, maybe when he was in Vancouver, and he was there for about 3 or 4 days, which is usually the guest. If someone's appearing in an episode, there's when Keenan went back, I think he probably filmed for about 4 days or something like that, and that's how long he was in Vancouver for. And I think people did like their own little sleuthing and research, and there's nothing on his IMDb. There's no casting announcement, so there's no reason he would have been there. And I doubt he was there for a holiday because I don't think people holiday in Vancouver.
So I want to ask you, and I'm going to ask the chat, and this has nothing to do with how much I like Tom or how much I like Matt, because I think they're both great. Do you think it would have hit differently if it would have been Matt instead of Tom?
It wouldn't have made sense if it was Matt.
Right.
It had to be Tom. I don't know why it was like, oh, it should have been Matt Letch. Like, no, it wouldn't have made 0 sense. And it actually would have been more illogical than some of the stuff we just talked about.
Matt has had more interactions with Legends of Tomorrow than he ever had with Team Flash.
Like, what was he in? 2 episodes of Flashpoint. Another episode in season 2. And the finale for season 1.
Mm-hmm. But then he was a whole season with Legends of Tomorrow.
Whole season, yeah.
Can you imagine Matt trying to deliver those lines to Caitlin? Think about that scene with Caitlin.
It wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have worked.
Even between him and Barry, I don't think it works unless there's build up. There has to be build up. Or like, has Matt just shared one scene with Iris?
Yeah,
which is in the second episode of Flashpoint, I think. Was there one in the season 2 episode?
Yeah,
I can't remember.
I just don't think the scenes would have hit as much emotion if it would have been Matt Lesher. I think it had to be Tom Cavanaugh.
Yeah, and honestly, also how the show set up Reverse Flash at this moment, like the one that we're dealing with, it had to be
before everybody starts going off about it, I realize that there is no logical Wellsabard explanation. Like, I get it, I understand that. But we just have to accept the fact that it's gonna be that. Like, that's the way it's gonna work
But hold on. Charles says if Matt came in during the Godspeed arc, it could have worked. No, it actually was before that. What was the big episode with Reverse Flash in season 6? Had exorcism in the title. What version of Reverse Flash is trapped within Nash trying to take over? It's the Wellsabard version.
Right.
He gets taken out, but it's still Wellsabard. That gets put into that version, the Wellsabard version of Reverse Flash, gets put into the Negative Speed Force.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the one that had to come back with the Godspeed one that was stuck there, and that's the one that had to be there now. However, now that we have this Reverse Flash that's had his speed taken away, he's in Argus doing whatever he wants. If another version comes back now, while that one's there, it should be either Matt Letcher or it's a younger version like Origin, Eobard Thawne.
Yeah. So Quinlan, this is exactly it. Some scenes wouldn't have worked, but I would like to see him back as a younger version. Yeah, I would. So the one thing I did, I talked about this in my review, is what I saw with that explanation for why he hates Barry or whatever. That was a nice little like teaser, but I still would love to see like a younger version of Eobard.
Yeah. And you don't necessarily have to see that play out, that exact same, because future stuff can be expensive to do. And just sometimes when they go to the future, it's like, this isn't the future. You just put some flashy light bulbs or something in. Like, it doesn't look like the future.
Or a fake neon sign on top of
it. Or like someone wearing like a big silver puffer jacket or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if they just have that younger Reverse Flash just come back for the first time. And I know technically they did that in season 2, but we can say that was pre-crisis. That never happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because Matt Letcher's in his late 40s, I think. Tom Cavanaugh's only, I think, like He's older than him, but he's not like
I think he's like 52, 53, something like that.
Yeah, he's like early to mid 50s. Like Matt Letcher's in his late 40s.
And I will say Tom is in amazing shape. Like he's in really good shape.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh my god, like the age difference and everything like that. Like that I think the point that people make, I think, is a bit redundant, but yeah, like I think if another one comes back now after we've had this whole lock up in Argus, it has to be either Matt Letcher from obviously a different point in Earbard's life, or like a origin, like however old he'd be, like 30 or something like that.
Yeah. So we're gonna address this, and then we're gonna do Pagey's pick, and then when we come back, I'm gonna talk about all my like nitpicks or whatever. Adam Strangel, but they $5 super chat. I know it's comic accurate, but any of you feel the Flash suit needs more gold? The boots are completely gold. I just feel it doesn't matter. I think it looks perfect to me.
Yeah, I agree with Eric.
I don't have any. I think that the suit we have right now with the new boots is the most perfect Flash suit we've ever had in live action. Even better than the 90s suit, I think.
Yeah.
And you agree with me 100%, right? There's no question about that.
Yeah. And I think that's why with the movie suit they've gone over the top, because they don't want to look the same. But I think it's because the show's one is pretty much spot on.
Yeah,
it's as comic accurate as you're going to get now that has the gold boots on.
I mean, if
it's got a lot of gold detailing on it anyway, it's just that maybe like the middle doesn't. But I think you don't want it to. You want that Flash emblem to be clear in the middle with red around it. You don't want all this gold little stripes and crap going on around that.
I get what you're saying, Adam, but I think if we may see more gold added later on, but right now, like I'm good with it right in this moment. I think it's my favorite Flash suit of all time, honestly. All right, grab a snack, grab a drink. We're going to do some more super chats here in a moment. It is time for the dreaded Pagey's pick of the week.
Okay.
So let me put this on the screen so everybody knows. Pagey's pick. Exclamation point this time. 3 exclamation points, actually.
Okay.
And here we go.
Okay.
Holiday edition.
This is Pagey's pick, jokes edition.
Oh, no.
There's 3 jokes. One is edgy, one is Christmas themed, and another one is just random. Okay.
All right.
What would you rather first? The edgy, the random, or the Christmas themed?
Chat, you got 5 seconds to answer after I ask you this.
Should I leave the edgy one till last?
Yeah, so leave edgy till last. What were the other 2 choices?
Random and Christmas themed.
All right, do Christmas first, right? Christmas first.
Okay.
Let's do Christmas first.
Why did Santa stop coming down the chimney?
Oh no, I feel like the wording of this question. The wording of this question. Give me a second. The wording of this question has me worried. Why did Santa stop coming down the chimney? Okay, what is I'm not gonna even guess. What's the punchline?
Because he became claustrophobic.
Oh no, you tricked me. You tricked me. I thought it was going to be a dirty joke.
Well, if you expect the worst, you can never get insulted. So
I know. So that was tame, and I have a feeling the edgy one is going to make up for the tameness of that joke. Actually. All right. So here we go. Random second. Let's do edgy last. So what is the random one?
Okay, so a guy walks into a library, and he strolls up to the counter and looks at the librarian just straight in the eyes and screams, "I'll have a cheeseburger, a large fries, and a large milkshake, please." Just screams at the top of his lungs as loud as he can. The librarian just looks at him, like shushes him, and just says to him, like, "Sir, this is a library. No need to yell." And the man just looks at him and goes, he's with a sorry face and just whispers, "I'm so sorry. I'll have a large cheeseburger, a large fries, and a large milkshake, please."
That could have been a dad joke. That was close to a dad joke there. That was pretty close. All right. So the final one, I'm worried about this one. This is the final joke. This is the edgy one. Everyone, edgy warning. Edgy warning, because I have a feeling he said it's gonna be demonetization city. So let's see what it is. All right, what's the edgy joke?
Okay. Shout out to Juicy Smollett. on hiring black actors for what has in the past predominantly been a traditionally white role.
That's bad. That was edgy, and that is demonetization city. And
Okay,
if
but
you guys didn't get it, play it back again.
But now, hold on. We can't beat up on Juicy Smollett too bad. He did that well enough on his own.
Leave it to Pagey to draw. See, that was like, you didn't even have to do the other two jokes. That one was just like by itself was enough.
That was to put you in a false case of security or false sense of security.
Jeez. All right. That caught me off guard. I can't even speak now. It caught me off guard.
Eric's just checking the monetization status.
I'm looking now to see
have we been taken down.
What you did. So all right. So far, so good. All right. Back to the Flash before they shut down the stream. Jeez. Ash here. Okay, here we come. I was like going into the nitpicks. Here we go. A nitpicking question here. Ash here with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Ash. The gold boots look nice, but do you think that Barry getting the gold boots as a plot device to defeat Despero was a bit of a letdown, especially how the writers hyped up Barry earning the gold boots? So I was banging my head against the wall, not literally, figuratively, trying to figure out how I felt about this. I didn't like the scene where they open up the box and there's the glowing. I thought that was a little silly, right? The boots being made, with the PED to help take out Despero. Yes, it was a little bit cheesy. And I will admit that it was kind of on the lazy side in terms of like introducing it and everything. Because I thought he was just going to put on the suit and the boots would be gold and it's like a time travel mistake or something like that. But they tried to give it some sort of like storyline reason or whatever. For me, the earning of the boots, I think, was a metaphoric earning. Like, I think what they meant is he's going to go through this whole event and deal with all of these problems, and then his reward at the end is getting these nice boots. I don't think they meant like someone is going to go, hey, you did a great job, here's your gold boots, like a quest in a video game or something. I don't think that's what they meant. And that was a little bit confusing to the viewers. That's what I thought it meant, that Barry was going to have these things happen to him and that the reward at the end was going to be these new boots or whatever made out of this device, this PED thing and whatnot. That's how I took it. What did you think about the gold boot thing, the scene with him getting it and defeating Despero? Like what are your thoughts on this? I don't really care, honestly. I like the boots.
I don't really. I think it was just a comic booky moment. I don't think there's a need to put too much thought to it.
So, I mean, you're good. He's got the gold.
I think it was just meant to be like a cool reveal, like, oh, the shiny, and then I think the way that they had him running. The only thing I was disappointed by in the episode, there's no shot of him just standing up and you get the full suit with him in the gold boots.
Right. Like in episode 4, when he ran back with the reverse flash suit on, we get a full
there's none of that. Now,
suit, so.
To be fair, maybe they thought they wanted to do it in like daylight and stuff because that's a nighttime scene. So we might get that in the first time we see him when we pick back up in whatever episode it is. But that was the only thing I was like, oh, why didn't we see like a full shot of him?
Right. So I will say this, Ash, I'm not giving them a pass for doing it in a lazy way. I'm just saying that I wanted the boots. So I'll take them however they're going to give them to me. And I know that's probably not the answer that you wanted because I'm usually super nitpicky. But this particular thing, I just wanted him to get the gold boots. So yeah, the scene wasn't great, but it didn't really matter too much in the end for me as long as we got to see him because the boots look amazing. And I saw Gwendolyn made a comment that I think was, where's it at? They shouldn't have said that then. And I agree with this. I think the comment about him earning it, I think they probably should have just never.
To be fair to Eric Wallace, this was that the context for that talk was before they even knew they were doing Armageddon, before Eric Wallace had been asked to do Armageddon. So he wouldn't actually had the.
Are you an Eric Wallace shill? Is that what's going on?
No, it's literally if you go look at the actual timing of that interview when he said it, because I think it's actually that interview was actually with discussing film.
Yeah.
I think that, and that was, and I know.
Oh, did Ben do the interview? Did Ben do it? Was it?
No, but I did the freaking dictation of it. So I remember
right,
that.
I know. I remember.
So I got access to the interview early, so I did the dictation of it or whatever. But that was a while ago. That was before season 7 aired. Like that was because of that break, that COVID break. It was actually, it might have been like really shortly after season 6, and it ended abruptly. That's how long ago it was.
So Moore here says, what about the Flash that chased Reverse Flash to Barry's home? He had read it. So I think, Moore, I appreciate your comment here, but I want to point this out that there have been so many changes to the timeline going back to that original moment. I don't think it's going to play out exactly the same no matter how many times they do it.
If you look at that scene, it's a season 1 suit that's bright red.
Right.
It's so even just based off that, like the fact that when the suit changed in season 4 or whatever it was, that question could have come up.
I mean,
like
technically they could make it so when he goes back, it's for the first time every time. I mean, they could decide to do it any way they wanted. It really is one of the,
and also that's the original timeline Flash. That's not our Barry.
Right. Yeah, that's a
different Flash completely. Anyway,
that becomes the Flash like 5 years later.
Yeah, so that it doesn't even matter. Yeah.
So the other thing I want to point out is that this scene, to me, has been as problematic as that damn newspaper article that we talked about for like 4 seasons, where they created something that it was. I mean, it was like it went so far into the point where we're trying to figure out what it means.
No, I've just never heard the use of that damn newspaper article.
It was. I just like it got brought up so many times, and I'm like, it's a time travel show. Like, not everything it's not prophetic. Like, it's not where there's this. It's not something that's unchangeable.
It's constantly in flux. It should be constantly in flux.
Which is why the article kept disappearing and reappearing, and the name kept changing on it and stuff like that. So I appreciate your question or your comment. I just think we need to kind of understand that time travel fluctuates reality, so things are going to change.
Yeah.
Adam here with the $10 super chat. This is a really good question, actually. Do any of you personally believe in redemption for horrible people, evil like Despero? What would redeem them besides death? Well, I don't think death is a redemption for anyone, first of all.
Death is a release for a lot of people.
Yeah, and revenge and all kinds of punishment.
Yeah.
So redemption for horrible people, and I've said this before about a lot of characters on the show, the only redemption people can have is the redemption that they ask for. Like, you can't. So Alice is a really good example on Batwoman. Unless Alice acknowledges all of the awful things she's done and then actively tries to change as a person, there's nothing anyone else can do to redeem Alice as a character. They can give her an opportunity for redemption, but the first step in that is acknowledging that she has something to amend. So if Despero never wants to admit that what he did was evil, then there is no redemption for that character. That's the way I look at it. How do you see it, Paige? Do you agree or disagree with that?
Specifically what?
Like, do you think the redemption has to start with the character? We can't force people to redeem themselves. That doesn't work.
Well, no, I think that it comes down to the individual. I mean, unless you want to start doing like conversion or something like that, then...
Which is the whole idea of consent and removing meta powers.
Well, by the way, I need to bring this up because I've seen there's a lot of debate. Like, what about the topic of consent? And I say people kept saying it was about Cicada in season 5. It wasn't about Cicada. It was about the 8-year-old girl.
Yeah, but I mean, it was just a huge discussion, and they even went as far to talk about it in the trial with Frost. Like the whole idea that they would give her the cure without her consenting to it. I mean, that was the discussion during season 7, right?
No, I was just saying, but people were saying like, oh, but they were going to use it on Cicada, and he was a villain, so why didn't they?
You mean why
brought up against Reverse Flash?
Right,
but it wasn't against Cicada; it was against the little girl.
Yes, you're right about that.
And that's why
my question was so let's jump into that then quickly. So the moral dilemma in the final episode, right? The one that was presented to them by Joe and I guess the new Team Flash or whatever.
New Team Flash, man.
Was that, I know it's like the whole Arrow versus new Team Arrow or whatever, was that Barry and Iris and Caitlin, if they did not help Eobard, that they would be responsible for Eobard's death in a way, right? And I have several arguments about this. The first one is, if you argue that Eobard as an individual person, regardless of what he's done in the past or how awful he is, if you argue that he is someone that should be saved, then that means everyone from that timeline was killed by Barry Allen. If that's the argument you're going to have. Because Barry erased that timeline, meaning all of those people are gone, not just on Earth, but in that entire universe at his hands. So you can't tell him that Eobard's blood is on his hands if you're not going to hold him accountable for all the other timelines that he's erased. Correct?
I guess.
No, I mean, like, that's the way I look at it. Like, I felt like that was the weird moral argument to have, is that if you don't help him, you're killing him. And that's the same thing that Barry's done to so many other timelines. Like, if you go back to the beginning, he's back in season 1 when he changed time, even if it was like 5 minutes or whatever it was, he technically killed all the people in that other timeline when he restarted a new timeline. So that was a weird moral dilemma to have, number one. The second thing is, if the idea was they had to take Eobard's powers away to save him, right? If that was the discussion that they were having, why not ask Eobard what he wants? Because then that takes the weight off of them. Like, if you're putting the weight on them and saying that if they don't help him, that there's something wrong, then they should have asked Eobard. Because what they did was not save him. They were technically punishing him. Because by taking his powers away, they're like, we'll eliminate a threat, and we're going to do it without presenting this solution to him, because he wanted their help, but they didn't even tell him what they were going to do. And I think if you're going to put that moral decision on the main characters, then they should have asked Eobard what he wanted. Like, do you want to keep your powers and fade away, or do you want us to take your powers away and save you? That should have been the conversation they had, but they didn't do that. So that was an issue for me with that moral dilemma in episode 5. And I didn't think about it totally when I was doing my review, but that was because they want us to believe that this was a play on how good our characters are. But ultimately, they didn't ask the right questions, in my opinion. Do you think any of that's going to matter later on, or do you think that they just didn't even acknowledge that because they just needed the story to go a certain direction? Which is what I think. I think they just did it because they needed it to happen.
Just need stuff to move along.
Yeah, that's what I think. But in reality, I thought that was a weird moral dilemma for them to have on the show. Yeah, it's a little strange. All right, so here's Ash with another $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Ash. Do you think a better way for Barry to have gotten the gold boots would have been to you're really on this gold boot thing, Ash? I love it. You think there's a better way for Barry to have gotten the gold boots would have been a party gift from the Oliver post-crisis, a reference homage to Barry making Oliver's first mask when they met. So you're talking about like going back a couple of years or whatever and giving him the gold boots then. I would have been okay with that too, but we didn't get them then. So we have to address how we would get them now, right? And I don't think there's any way that would have made everyone happy, right? Like, what do you think, Pagey? What do you think about that?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like how people think this is a bad event.
Yeah. I don't think it was bad. I have a lot of issues with it,
just to say, like, you're not going to be able to please everyone.
Yeah.
People's going to say, oh, I didn't like this one thing, so it's ruined the entire thing for me. Or I didn't like how they did this. I'm like, that's fine. But just because you didn't like the way it was done doesn't mean it's wrong.
Yeah. So
it's just another way they did it.
I can tell you how I would Yeah. So, you know, my fan way of getting the boots would have been just for him to like switch to his suit after Reverse Flashpoint, and he had gold boots. That would have been, for me, that would have been cool. But they wanted that moment at the end.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been as good of a moment.
Right. They were looking for, like, this event in a nutshell was a series of moments, but I also think that the overall story was reflective of the connection of the characters opposed to how solid the actual story is. Because there's a few other things that bugged me. Again, I loved it though. I think it's some of the best Flash we've ever had because it wasn't super cringy. I think that it was very comic booky. And so, yeah, there are issues with it. I still really enjoyed it. And if I had my way, he would have just had the gold boots on when he switched costumes. But there we go. Do you have another super chat? Are we good to go? Good to go. All right. So also the other thing that I thought about was there was a lot of loose ends left open after we ended the event. And I wanted to get your take on it because I wanted to see if you had any insight on this that I might not have thought of. But in episode 3, we get introduced to the idea of the negative still force, and then it's never brought up again. Do you think it was introduced and then they just dropped it for some reason? Like when they went and did episode 4, they're like, we're not even going to bring it up. Or do you think they introduced it because they're going to pay it off with Iris's time sickness later on? What do you think the deal with that is?
I'm not too sure because I don't know if that was Dion just assuming that someone had connected to the negative still force. Like that was his theory.
Right.
And that's why it wasn't brought up again. Because really, then when you watch episode 4?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 4. Yeah, 4, when we're in the reverse Flashpoint thing. and Eobard Thawne says what he did, it has nothing to do with the negative still force.
Exactly, and I'm okay with that. I think
so. My thought around it is that Dion just goes, well, I mustn't have been able to read it because it was done through the negative still force, but it just could have been that Eobard was traveling just through the negative speed force, and he can't track that because he's not a part of the negative side of it.
Yeah, because my issue was what Eobard was explaining was just general time travel. There was no like manipulation of like anything else. And so when that was left out of it, I'm like, was that just them changing the plan, or was that like a preview of what Iris is going to be dealing with when we get done? Because we know Dion removed the treatments from her or whatever. So I know we're going to be dealing with that later on.
Well, but no, I just thought it was he removed the treatments from her in the Armageddon timeline.
Yes, yeah.
So I don't know if he took them off her.
So you're saying once we get done now, then reset, she still has the treatment.
Well, because Iris never went through Joe dying and would have no reason to undo the powers because she didn't have to investigate Joe.
Moore's coming at you with this one, so Dion doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, I think it's that Dion was just making, because he's not connected to the negative still force, so how would he know? I think it's him going, well, how did I not read this? Well, it's because he can't read the negative side of the forces.
Right.
Like he can do stuff with Barry and the other force and everything like we saw previously, but the negative side, I have no idea.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was a little upset about it only because I was like, I thought we were going to get like this negative forces thing in episode 4, and then when it didn't happen, I'm like, wait a minute.
Well, I was concerned when they brought it up because I was like, how are they going to, like, what are they? They're going like much bigger than I thought they would. Because as soon as you bring in like reverse flash beam to tap into all these negative other forces, I'm like, what the hell? He's going to be extremely overpowered.
Yeah. Could you imagine if he had the other forces at his disposal? That would have been,
Barry would have been screwed. He would have been, I think it would have been not just Barry, but it would have been burying a grave. See you in the coffin.
The forces would have been calling Eobard and Iris mom and dad in the reverse flashpoint timeline.
Well, Psyche at least specifically. Psyche was the one, mommy and daddy, or whatever it was.
No, mom.
No,
do you think the reason for Damien Dark giving Joe the time stone was for saving Iris from time phasing? So I think there was 2 reasons that Damien handed over the time stone. The first one was to give us that scene where he meets up with Nora and like the crossing of the 2 of them as one fades away and one comes back or whatever. But yes, I think it could be used later on to have something to do with her.
Well, Eric Wallace said that Joe's going to have a much different storyline than we've seen him have before. And as soon as that time stone got handed over, I was like, oh, well, that's the setup for it. But I'm very curious to see where it goes in general.
Yeah, but it did give us that great scene between Nora and Damien, which, by the way, out of all the stories in that final episode, that was the one where I was like, I didn't even see that come. Like, that was a story that I had no idea was even going to be a part of this event. Like,
well, I didn't, because I didn't even know Damien was in episode 5. And when he showed up, I was like, oh, what the hell are you doing here? And then they did the whole thing with Nora, and I was like, oh, wait, Nora's not alive. Nora's dead. Like, that wasn't fixed. And it's because he was back, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But it was random having her. It was probably the most random cameo in the event, but I guess they had to wrap that story up there. But I wonder what happens with her. Like Joe and Nora walk off.
Well, Laura says Joe now has superpowers. I mean, he's got access to that stone, whatever.
Stone. Like, I don't necessarily think it's no use of superpowers, but
yeah,
I don't think we're gonna see Joe like come back with and like be riding a dinosaur or something. But
you know who I thought about? You're not gonna believe when I say this because you know how I feel about this character. But you know who I thought about would have been really useful in this event? Would have been Kramer, if they would have pulled her in somehow into the fold.
I thought you were going to say Donna Smoke.
No, I was not going to say Donna Smoke.
Okay.
So I know that we had like in episode 2 where Barry interacted with her and she was like, you know, you're late, now you're being suspended and all that, which all of that's not going to be, I don't think that's going to be a situation moving forward because they fixed everything or whatever. But do you think that they're going to have this interplay between Kramer and Barry where there's this like moment where she gets speed powers or something and then she's going to figure out the Flash's Barry some? Do you think that's going to be anything in the rest of the season, or do you think that was just for that one episode? Because I feel like there's no other where she doesn't really fit in anywhere else unless they're going to give her a story with Barry, because Joe's going to have a story obviously with the Time Stone and Iris, right? So
I think it depends on what's happening with CCPD.
Okay.
I think it depends what's happening there. There's a storyline that involves that and everything like that. So I think that's the curiosity, or like that's the curious thing around Kramer, if they actually do anything with CCPD. Because in episode 1, I liked, if not loved, her interaction with Barry. The banter they had, it wasn't like stick up her ass Kramer. It was like just Kramer being, you know, a bit of a bantery boss. I was like, continue that, but of course, it didn't play into the rest of the Armageddon. So it depends what it comes after.
Hold on.
She wasn't.
Kramer was flirting with Barry.
It wasn't flirting. It was.
Did anybody else in the chat get that impression from that scene at all? I didn't get that impression at all.
If that's flirting, then I should have got some numbers.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's kind of wild. So Abby says, "How do you think Phantom Girl will play into the back half of the fight?" This is a good question because we know that there was a casting for this character.
But the thing is that I'm not going to look too much into that because it could be for one episode.
So, do you think it's a time travel episode or no?
No, it just could be. I think she just could be a meta that's in the present day. And the thing is that I think the only reason that casting is out there is because that I think it was the Rap or something found out about it. It's happened so many times in a lot of these shows. Someone will get cast, someone puts out an exclusive. Now everyone's like, "Oh, how are they going to play into the rest of the season?" And it's literally for one episode.
Wow.
So she could be like there for like the back half of the season. But yeah.
This comment.
Yeah, Khalif's been edgy in the chat. I've seen a lot of.
Look, since season 7, it felt like Kramer was hitting on Barry. Wow. All right. Well, I mean, I don't get it, but I mean, they seem to think there's chemistry between Chester and Allegra, which we know that's not the case either.
Some people do believe that that's like the match made in heaven when it's like a match made in hell.
So, anyway, the other issue I had with it, and this is going to be me sort of, because actually I'm going to give like the 15-minute warning here for everybody. But another issue that I had was I think that it was kind of obligatory that it took place in 2031. And the reason why I say that is I realize in the comics, that's the story.
Years in the future. Yeah.
But in this particular crossover, I didn't think that was necessary to be.
It wasn't necessary. I think it was just an Easter egg.
Okay. Because a lot of the stuff that happened 10 years down the road felt like it could have happened in the reverse Flashpoint 2021.
Yeah.
So
I think it's just an Easter egg.
Yeah.
And also it was how you could actually properly put like Batwoman in there. And Ryan Choi and everything, and Alex Danvers.
Well, but the thing was that was a different version of Ryan Choi, so it didn't matter what time.
Yeah, but I think it's more that like if it's just in that future and everything like that, and you see the development there with other characters.
But 10 years was I think it's
but once again, I think it's just the Easter egg. So instead of doing 5 years, let's go 10 years because that's what it was like in the comics.
Yeah, I get that. That's why I said it didn't bother me too much, but I was just wondering like why they like in the context of the show, it didn't need to be 10 years. But it also didn't. It's not impossible.
But also, you didn't need to chalk 4 times before the stream. I mean, I didn't have to witness that 4 times. A lot of groin. Not gonna lie, a lot of groin.
I know it was just too much
to deal with.
Too much.
Maybe too little. I'm not too sure. It could be one of the two.
All right. There's a lot of other nitpicks, but I want to do one final one before we go because I think it did for me. It was kind of probably the biggest issue with episode 4. That gave me the most questions about the whole event. And that is how convoluted the timeline explanation was, because I think, so let me try and go through what actually happened here. So Eobard went back, and guys, it doesn't matter what order it occurred in, okay, because it's time travel. Doesn't matter what order it occurred in. Eobard goes back and to the 2013, 2014 in their timeline.
13, I think.
Right. And becomes the Flash. Then somehow creates the reverse Flash with Barry. Let's not even get into that. Somehow he does it. He also goes back to our 2021 in another timeline and makes our Barry look like he's losing his mind and tries to frame our Barry in 2021. But then he also goes back in time and kills Barry when he's younger before he ever becomes the reverse Flash in his Flashpoint. That was unnecessarily complicated. Like, it didn't need to be that complicated. I thought, like, why are they making it so difficult? Like, honestly, What do you think about it? I thought that was overly complicated, right? It was just a lot.
I was sort of confused about what came first in regards to him messing with Barry or him becoming the Flash.
That's a good question.
But based off what we saw in like the flashbacks, if you want to call it, I guess, or by like recounting it, he had the red streak. So he must have messed with Barry, done all that.
Before he did the changes in the other timeline.
But then he also was the Flash as well when he apparently attacked the city. So that's the only thing I'm confused by, because I saw people took like the weird route and they decided to go, how could he kill Barry? And then he becomes the Reverse Flash. I'm like, well, he of course made him the Reverse Flash first and then killed him. And that's why Barry's phasing in and out.
Yeah, that doesn't even, so that part doesn't even
people took the wrong route in regards to criticizing. I'm like, hold on, you've gone down the wrong path
that's, I don't have any issue with that. My issue is that once he became the Flash, there should have been no way for him to get back to the 2021 that we're in with our Barry, because that 2021 would not exist. If he went back in time, he would be going back to his 2021 where he was already the Flash. That was the issue I had with it. I don't care about the killing him as a kid. That is so far beyond what I'm already confused about that I don't even want to think about that one.
See, it would be fine if it was just an actual footage and it was in the 2021, because that could be the start of like some sort of weird event or something.
Except when he comes back and pretends to be the Flash.
Yeah, that's the issue there.
Right. That's the problem I have. The second problem I have with it is, how does Despero travel back to our 2021? Because he was in the 2031 reverse Flashpoint timeline. So how did he get back to our 2021? Because he's not a speedster.
I have the answer for that.
What's that?
Aliens. It's like how the Grinch can eat glass and swallow it and not cause any damage to any internal organs.
Maybe.
So,
but I actually have
the two, it's possible.
But I actually have a better excuse for all of it that would have fixed everything.
Wait, can I have a guess?
What's that?
Is it it's one of these two options. So I've got two options here.
Okay.
One of them is just self-belief.
Okay. No, that's not one of them.
Oh, it's not? So it's okay. So we crossed one out. And the other option is aliens, because aliens is the correct answer.
Yeah, that's not the answer either.
So
there was an easy way to make the story work with no convoluted time travel problems.
Edgy coming in.
Are you ready for this one?
Is it edgy?
So let's say it could be, yeah. So we know that it happened in 2031, right? Like I talked about that being like just this weird time they picked because it's from the comic books or whatever. That's a decade. So that leaves a lot of time for things to change, correct? So you don't have to answer because I already know the answer. Correct. When Eobard went back in time and started framing Barry, because Despero said that's when Barry loses his mind or whatever. If that would have been the beginning of Barry cracking and becoming a villain and essentially becoming the Reverse Flash because of everything that Eobard did, then that would have made sense a decade from 2021 for Barry to be the villain. And then all of the deaths that happened, Cisco, Nate, Ray, all of those deaths, Sarah, they would have all hit better because it would have been our Barry that did it, not some Reverse Flashpoint Barry. That also would have made it so that Eobard would have actually befriended and taken Barry's actual wife from him. And that would have been 10 years in the future. So all of that would have happened or whatever. And then that would have left literally no plot holes at all.
Well, I think the only issue is if they wanted to go in the same route, then Thorne couldn't be this person in the future.
But he could have spent the last 10 years.
He could have done the same thing, messing with Barry, but I think where he wanted to actually take over.
He still could have. What I'm saying is he still could have been the Flash. Yeah, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, but I think it's just more the fact that like Iris is obviously not going to go. Thorne killed my ex-boyfriend, caused a lot of damage. Hey, want to hook up? Like I don't think that's. So I understand. I think what the issue is they wanted Despero to be the villain who knew of the impending Armageddon, but they wanted Thorne to be this and that, and then they had to like try and get the connective tissue around that, and they just made it work as best as they could. And just sort of skip some logic. Which, you know what? But you know what? I'm fine with that because it's a comic book and they skip logic all the time.
Well, that's what I'm like. I'm not saying
as long as it doesn't take away from the story, in my opinion,
right?
Which I think in some ways it did.
Yes, this part did for me. Like this,
but it definitely didn't ruin it. I think if you went, oh my god, it ruined my day and ruined the.
Well, it didn't ruin me. What I'm saying is though is that the exception of Eobard getting Iris as his wife or whatever. The rest of it would have been fixed if they would have just let Barry progress into becoming a villain, and then maybe have Eobard like
would Star Labs have been fixed? Would Star Labs have been fixed like it was in the Reverse Flashpoint? Did you notice that the roof was fixed?
You got me. I don't know. I have no idea.
Exactly. So you know do you know what that means?
What's that mean? It was all worth it.
Was aliens. The answer was aliens all along. I told you, I was right.
That's true. But I feel like that it would have hit a little bit better that way. But I understand that I think they did what I always do. They overthink the explanation, and I think they went too far this time. Like one of those three things they did, I think would have been fine with me. Like for example, if Eobard would have gone back and just become the Flash and never messed with R. Barry, and it would have been something else completely that happened to Arbery, then I would have been like, okay, that makes sense. But the crossing over of those two stories is what kind of ruined it for me in that sense. But that's okay. Yeah. Last thing, and then I'm going to ask everybody's score. And I'm just going to let you give me your answer to this because I don't have an answer.
Is the answer aliens?
It might be.
Okay.
Maybe the chat knows. Why was Barry the only person that forgot Joe was dead?
Aliens.
Is that the answer? Is that your final answer?
Well, hold on. Is it my final answer?
Do you want to ring a friend?
Hold
on.
Want
a 50-50 shot there?
Wait, can I ask the audience?
Yeah, ask the audience. Why was Barry the only one that forgot Joe died? I want to know the answer to that one. Don't say time travel because that weird.
Well, no, because the actual answer would be if it was a different timeline specifically, but it was his timeline altering.
Yes.
So technically he should have
Barry was not the one that changed it, so he should have forgotten. Or he shouldn't have forgotten. Don't say it's because time travel doesn't affect him. We've seen that's not the case. Other speedsters have forgotten.
It's from the other so you got the best if you want to use the example, which is Flashpoint. When he started to mold his mind started to mold. God, I sound like I'm Jack Black from School of Rock. His mind started to mold to do you like that reference?
Yeah,
minds were molding.
Yeah.
When he's like memories and stuff start to mold to the actual Flashpoint timeline, but that was a completely different timeline that he had caused.
Right.
So I think that's maybe the logic they were going for, but because he wasn't the one that altered it, he should have remembered that Joe was dead.
But ultimately, it was another like portion of that weird convoluted explanation that Eobard gave because Joe not being there was leading up to Barry cracking, but then Barry cracking had nothing to do with the reverse Flashpoint timeline. So I'm like, why? Yeah. What was the point? I don't know. Also, one last thing. Does Iris have speedster powers? Yes or no?
Oh, I hope not.
I mean, does it make sense that if they said she did have some of the speed?
Are you talking about the arrow when they got farther ahead?
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at here.
I don't know. People said it was because of the time sickness thing, but in this timeline, she wouldn't have had it released by Dion. So unless she's just got cat-like reflexes now, then she should have been a shish kebab, aka brains on the wall.
Or maybe Mia's just not good. I mean, that's the other option.
Well, actually, that's probably a better excuse because that was my argument of not bringing the character back. But yeah.
All right, last couple super chats that we're going to wrap it up. Jason here with the $5 super chat. I think it's because he was literally traveling through time while the changes were taking place, so he didn't get the new memories. But it was specifically Barry, the one person he was targeting, which is why I thought the still force would have made sense. So if the negative still force was being manipulated, then that would explain how he could actually target like Barry not knowing that Joe was dead to make it more impressionable to Barry or whatever. But then they didn't say that. We've also seen other speedsters who have not had memories of other timelines. If we're talking about other speedsters, there's been times where like Zoom didn't realize, or he was not aware that changes were made in the timeline because he was in the timeline, meaning that if you would have changed something, he wouldn't have been aware of it, which is what was going on with Barry. It happened with Eobard all the way back in season 1 when they did time travel there. What about the Rival? The Rival was a speedster, and he had no idea, about stuff. So when timelines get changed, speedsters are not immune to changes in timeline. Only you are immune to the changes that you make in time. And that's the way it's always been. So this one instance didn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's okay. Thank you for the super.
Would you like me to read you a headline I just saw on Twitter?
Oh gosh, is it edgy or what?
It's politically relevant. It's not about Juicy Smollett or whatever his name is, so don't worry. It's not a continuation of the joke.
What is it?
COVID hits home for Hollywood. An agent has tested positive after attending the premiere of Spider-Man. A slew of Broadway plays are canceled shows. TV sets are grappling with breakthrough cases. And 2 Hollywood stars are believed to be unvaccinated and working the circuit.
Yeah, none of that surprises me.
Who are your 2 guesses for the 2 unvaccinated Hollywood stars, Eric?
I mean, they don't say who it is, right?
No. Well, they say 2 stars, but there's your hint.
It could be anybody. How many actors are there? There's so many of them. I don't know. Yeah, none of that surprises me. I mean, it's just one of those things where people are going to get it. That some people are going to be exposed. They're going to have to go quarantine, and that's just the way it is, I guess. So, Lord Genome with the $5 super chat. No, I've not seen the new Resident Evil. Neil McDonough is the villain. Only one reason I checked it out, he was a good villain at least. I've not heard anything good about that movie, so I feel bad for. I think Robbie Amell is one of the leads in that, so. I have not watched it. I've not supported it, and I feel bad because I like.
Oh, have you canceled it? Cancellation, Eric, the canceller.
Maybe
I don't know. Resident Evil.
I heard it wasn't good. I'm not a huge fan of zombie stuff anyway, so I was like, I'll just wait. Did you watch it? Have you seen it?
I've never watched a Resident Evil movie.
Okay, well there is your answer, Lord Gino. So there you have it. Staggerforth, 4-9 super chat. Did you already talk about Gotham Knights series? So there's not a lot to talk about, really, right? I mean,
and also it's very important to remember it's being developed. Doesn't mean it'll happen at all.
Yes,
and
it's being developed for the CW, right? Not by the CW.
Yeah, they don't develop shows. Warner Brothers.
I want to make this. I said this in the Weekly Geekly, and I want to bring it up to everyone here. Sometimes wording matters. The CW doesn't actually make any of the shows that people say they make. Like, they are distributing the shows. Like, there are production companies that make the shows, and the CW may put the shows on their network, but they are not the ones that are actually making the shows. So it's being developed for the CW by whoever is developing them, which I believe in this case, it's like Natalie Abrams, and who are the other, whose production company is it? Natalie Abrams is the writer.
Brad something and someone else. They're I think 2 of them are Batwoman producers, and I think Natalie Abrams is just a writer.
So I am over Batman stuff. I am beyond over Batman stuff. I think there's a huge flood of Batman stuff that's out there, and I'm just
if you want to put it in terms, Batman to Eric and partly to me as well. I'm sort of over all the Batman stuff as well. Think of it as the overabundance of chalk references on the after party when I'm here. That's what Batman is like to myself.
Here's the thing: some people love. I will say this: there's a group of fans of Batman that I would not even call just general comic book fans. There are people that love Batman, right? And those people are gonna love stuff like this, except for the fact that Batman's dead in the series. But they're gonna love stuff like this, right?
LOL.
And that's fine. That's absolutely fine.
Then shouldn't you love it?
No. I think there's too much. There are a ton of other interesting DC characters out there that could be used on a show. But what this tells me is they are prioritizing profit and marketability over creation, because this is something they're just taking that already exists. This story's already been written. There's a video game coming out about it. And to be honest, if this show, what would get me interested in this, and I can't believe I'm saying this because of the Batman fatigue, is if Batman were actually a part of the series. If Batman were going to be a story on the show and it was going to be a different take on Batman, I might be willing to go, you know what? maybe I'll check it out because I feel like I haven't seen anything like that before. But we've already seen so many Batman adjacent characters. Like there's Titans, and then of course there's Batwoman, and then there's the Gotham show coming out on HBO Max, and we have the new Batman movie coming out. We have Batman in the Flash movie. Basically, Young Justice is doing Batman. Like there's just so much Batman stuff, right? So I'm just like, I don't know if I'm ready to support another Bat Family show. And that's not saying that I don't think it's going to be good or any choice like about like how I feel about the quality of it. I'm very burned out on Gotham as a city and everything surrounding it. And Titans is primary to blame for that because the last season of Titans was just, it wasn't bad, but it was a lot of Gotham on Titans. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. I don't know how far it's going to go or if they're actually going to greenlight it because we remember Wonder Girl didn't happen either. So what are your thoughts on this? Batman's dead in this world, so
it probably won't happen. I don't know if it will happen or not. I don't think Natalie Abrams is that great of a writer. I mean, I've watched some of the stuff that she's written and it doesn't seem to be screaming from the hilltops. I'm amazing.
Laura said, did we forget about Bat Wheels? I did not forget about that, but thank you for bringing it up again.
Isn't that a movie though? Or is that a TV?
Maybe, I don't know.
Was that a series? Yeah, I don't know. I don't really care about it, to be completely honest. And also, isn't like the villains of the children of the villains or something are involved because they get blamed?
Well, Cody says it sounds like a Duke Thomas show. Honestly, I don't know. They haven't announced any like.
But you know what? They'll do Duke Thomas, but doesn't that take away from Batwing on Batwoman?
Yeah.
To an extent.
Well, the other thing is this isn't even in the Arrowverse. This isn't in it's a show that is going to be because you know why they don't want to mix Batwoman with this show. They just want to have another show about Bat family characters. So it makes me wonder what they think about Batwoman. If they're so excited about Batwoman, why are you putting out this show? Like
couldn't you have just done this storyline
on Batwoman?
On Batwoman? And then it rules out like the whereabouts of Bruce Wayne in the Arrowverse because he died.
Yeah.
And you do it through Batwoman.
Yeah, Staggerverse says, unfortunately, on this show, Batman is dead. Whether dead or not, I mean, I would be interested to see if they were going to do a TV Batman, only because we haven't had one in over almost 100 years. So it's been a long time since we've had a TV Batman, like 70 years, something like that. I don't know. It's been a while. And so I would love to see them try to do something like that because Titans kind of failed for me in that department. But I'm just over Gotham. I think it's not the characters. I think I'm just over the city of Gotham. Like I'm just over this city where everybody's corrupt and the police department is in on it and you don't know who to trust and every villain lives in the sewers. It's just like I'm not interested in it very much at all.
Every villain lives in the sewers.
I mean, I feel like that's the case. That's why I'm really excited about Naomi, because I feel like Naomi is something different that I haven't seen anything like that before. So yeah. David says, Eric, when is your No Way Home review coming out? It is a very quick non-spoiler review, and I'll upload it this evening probably.
Well, do you want to give our quick thoughts on Spider-Man now without spoiling it?
We could do that because my review was only going to be like 5 minutes. Do you want my non-spoiler?
Without
yeah. So do you want a non-spoiler, very, very non-spoiler like thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home? Because Pagey has seen it 2 times already, and I just saw it yesterday. We can give our thoughts here, and then I won't even release a review. I'll just tell people to come here and watch the end of the. I'll actually bookmark it or timestamp it in the video, because otherwise I was just going to record a quick one. So I mean, we can do it here. All right, so this is non-spoiler, everyone. So there we go. Anthony says the CW should have done a live action Young Justice. I don't know. I don't think they have the budget to do what Young Justice.
It's also about them getting the rights to do it.
Yeah. All right, so Spider-Man No Way Home. I want to first and foremost say this before we get our thoughts out there. If you are a fan of Spider-Man and all Spider-Man stuff, I also think of Spider-Man like Batman. There are people that love Spider-Man that aren't necessarily interested in the other stuff either. If you're a huge fan of Spider-Man, go out and support this. If you're a fan of Batman stuff, go out and support that stuff. I don't want to tell you what to do. I can only give you my impressions here. And I I loved the movie, and I said this on Twitter. I loved the movie because it did so many things for me as a fan of like Spider-Man in general that I absolutely enjoyed it. Even with all there are flaws in this movie. I'm going to point this out, and we'll talk about this on Sunday. There are some flaws in the movie that do need to be discussed, right? As a fan of the movie, as like someone going in that loves it, it was a experience-wise, and I didn't have people screaming in my theater like you, Pagey, but experience-wise.
How did that happen? You live in America where it's like the king of screaming. The only experience I had of people being so obnoxiously loud and just intentionally being annoying was in American theaters.
Yeah.
I go into my theater expecting it. Forget it's school holidays. Everyone's 15 trying to be edgy. When the Sony logo appeared at the beginning, I hear, I love Spider-Man in a high-pitched tone. I'm like, oh, this is going to be torture. I can already tell. No spoilers of something, but like 25 minutes in, everyone's up like elephants. I'm like, my God.
Well, it doesn't even like, okay, so our theater wasn't loud like that, but there were people that screamed and got excited during the film. But it wasn't like yours, obviously, because we didn't
I wish we could have swapped places.
But I have two. So I'm going to score this movie accurately now. I'll give you like my actual numeric score on it. But I will say the fan in me, someone that has loved Spider-Man is my favorite. I mean, literally, I have a thing of him on the wall there. He's my favorite Marvel superhero. Like, I love Spider-Man. I've supported Spider-Man pretty much my entire life. So the fan in me with this movie and what I got in it, without any spoilers, I would say it is a 10 out of 10 for the way I felt about the movie, right? So I will say that. Logically, though, like if we're talking about just the movie, the storylines, the characters, I would say if you're going to ask my score on it that way, it would fall around an 8 for me. Between an 8 and a 9, I would.
You're pretty much spot on. I give basing off an actual film, the story, logic around it, development, because without spoiling anything, well, you know that there's like you have like Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin.
We know villains are coming back. All of that, yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's little to no development anywhere.
Right.
Because the thing with this movie, it's a cheat code.
Mm.
It's cheat code the movie, but it's fan service. I wouldn't give it a 10. I'd probably give it like a 9.5 because I think they could have done one more thing that I think would have made it a 10, but I won't say it here. And
I'm going to talk about that on Sunday. I know what you're going to say. I will say this though. For me, I went back and watched all the old movies like this past week. And so coming into this movie and having the villains return and stuff, I totally loved seeing that story continue into this film. And I will go as far to say that this movie is probably, and this is no cap at all, it's like the most fan service I think Marvel's delivered for their fans ever.
Yeah.
In any property.
Because I think the best, because I've seen people compare it to Endgame. It's not Endgame because the scope of the movie actually isn't very, and I think I said that to you before you saw it. I think you might have asked me what you think or something. And I was like, the scope isn't that big. Like, it's not a ridiculously large movie.
Right.
People thought it was going to be much larger than it is. The scope is actually a bit more narrowed in than I expected going into it. But it's very unique because of what it is, and I don't think you can compare it to anything. I think it's going to be unique for a while. And that doesn't mean it's overly special. It's just I don't know if you're going to get a movie by the Marvel or DC that is similar to it.
Right.
I'm trying to say this without saying anything. But
no.
I can't
wait to talk about this in detail on Sunday because there's so many things I want to talk about.
If you've seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about when you see it.
Yeah.
It's not Endgame, but it's also not what you'd expect from something else that might fall into the same category.
And I will say that this is probably next to the second Spider-Man movie in the original trilogy. This is probably the best Spider-Man movie live action that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I had this once again, this is without spoiling anything. I had my worries in the middle third. And I was hoping that they would deliver. And obviously the fact that we are ranking it like a 9.5 or 10 out of 10.
Oh, if you love Doctor Strange, definitely go this. If you love Doctor Strange, you should go see this movie as well. Like,
but I don't know. Were you worried like when we got halfway through the movie?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
I was a little bit. But the thing is that this movie has so many. So I heard someone say something about like the amount of action in the movie, but I think there was a really good balance of story and action. I think in this film, I think there was a good balance.
But the thing is that you can clearly tell it was filmed during COVID.
Yes, they're because they did reshoots, didn't they, for this movie? They did some.
Yeah, it's really awkward. It's like some stuff looks like it's normal,
right?
And I know if that was
so
filmed later,
this is one of those movies where this was before they were able to trick us, like before they were able to trick like how many people are present in a space and everything. They've gotten really good about doing that. So there's that. But I just want to leave it there. Like for me, as a fan of Spider-Man and as a fan of those characters or whatever of that whole like universe, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. But that's literally me fanboying about it. The real score of the movie, like if you're talking about as a movie, as a standalone movie, it's somewhere between like an 8 and a 9, maybe like an 8.5, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
but that's really good.
Yeah, because it's got some script issues, and I think some of the dialogue is a bit.
And I will say this: we had one person that went with us that hadn't watched anything Marvel related. Really, they were just kind of like, yeah. Somebody went with us. They're not into superhero movies at all. And they were very confused with this movie. So I think it's got the same issue with like Infinity War and Endgame, where unless you know some of the older stuff, you might have some issues. But everyone in this chat, you're not going to have any problems with it. Like you'll probably understand everything that's going on in the movie. So
the thing is that I think if anyone that has grown up watching the Spider-Man franchises, whether it was the Raimi or the Amazing Spider-Man or anything like that, comes out of this movie and goes, I hated it. Or it gives it anything, what I would say below a 7.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, smile.
I don't know.
Smile for once. Look in the mirror. Have a warm shower. I don't know. Eat some like chocolate,
completely unrelated to the content of the movie.
Smile.
It is like top 3 biggest Thursday movie of all time, which is crazy when we're dealing with what we're dealing with worldwide. So I suspect this weekend, because they were hoping for 130 million opening. I actually think it's going to do more than that, honestly, if they've already got 50.
I saw somewhere like they're saying it's 100. They say it's going to beat Spider-Man 3's, which was 150, and it's going to make over 300 mil worldwide in the opening weekend or something.
That would be ridiculous. If it does that, that would be wild. I mean,
but I think that's because people want to see it as fast as possible because they don't want to get spoiled.
But do you think that was part of the marketing ploy with this? The reason why they didn't reveal everything?
They were because the thing is, I've seen people like compare it to like the Endgame hype, but Marvel, like they did a worldwide tour with like the Endgame thing. There was nothing. Like if there was less marketing for this, I know there's like the whole COVID thing, but they still did. They went overseas and everything, like the actors and stuff. There was less marketing for this than Far From Home and Homecoming because they didn't need to, because everyone was doing it online anyway.
Yeah. That's true. So anyway, as a fan, I would say if you love like Marvel, if you really love Spider-Man, if you love Doctor Strange, if you love those classic villains, you're going to love this movie. I would be actually surprised if you went to if you go to this movie and you don't love it.
Like you might think, okay, well, I didn't like Asp because I have some. I can say one thing that isn't a spoiler.
Be careful.
It's not a spoiler, but how something is handled in this movie has me worried about how something will be handled in the Flash movie.
Okay, because this movie actually is a window into what we might get with that, and I'm a little concerned about like how things are going to.
Well, hold on, I'll message you in the private chat on StreamYard, and
we're not going to go too far into it.
Hold on,
let's steer away.
I'll just type it quickly.
Zip it up. Yeah, go ahead. It's all secret. Shh. Be quiet, everyone. Be quiet. We're hiding.
There we go. Okay, I put that in the private chat. So let me read that to yourself and let me know. That's one thing in there, and it was only a little thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think
it has me really worried because
yes.
I think it might be a larger part in the Flash movie.
I will say yes, and actually that's a good thing to kind of put as a hang a hat on it for Sunday, because I will talk about that during the spoiler chat or whatever.
Some of you might know what I'm referring to, but something that happened, some events in Spider-Man No Way Home, and that I don't think were done like that well. It could have been done better. It might have been a time issue and just everything like that. Could be a bigger issue in the Flash.
Right. Okay.
With something.
And think about that when you go in. for sure. Oh, does this say I look like Santa Claus there? Look at that.
You look like a white chocolate Oreo. Is that a thing? I think it might be. I'm not too sure.
It might be. I don't know. Anyway, thank everybody for joining us. This is the mid-season finale for the after party until we return in January. So we got 4 shows returning, I believe, the second week in January, which is Superman and Lois, Naomi's premiere. We got Batwoman returning and Legends of Tomorrow, I think, come back as well. And then The Flash does not return until March, and that's going to be on a Wednesday. So that's kind of wild. That's going to be a weird night. It's going to be weird after all these years watching The Flash on a Wednesday, right? It's going to be a little.
Well, you'll be watching on a Thursday, won't you?
No, I'm going to watch it as soon as I get home. So I will watch it well, yeah, I guess it is Thursday. I get home after 12. So you're right. You are correct, and I am wrong, as usual.
L.
So, that's right. Peacemaker starts. You know what? I feel like they're not doing a lot to promote that show. I'm not seeing a lot of ads.
I think it is a TV show, though, so I think you really need to promote it a week or two before it starts.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I'm going to put Spider-Man in the thumbnail for this, so that way people can just come here and I'll timestamp my review of Spider-Man here. Right. Overall rating for Armageddon. That's a really good question, Barry. In my review, I gave it a B. I think a B- or something. I think it was pretty close to perfect, but not exactly perfect for me. In the chat, drop your scores for Armageddon. What would you say, Pagey?
Like an 8, 8.5. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, something from 8 to 8.5, something like that.
That's fair. I would agree with that. That's kind of where my B's laying, around the 8 area. So yeah, we're gonna leave it on that. You guys in the chat. Oh, Cody gave it a B+, so he's in the same boat as me. I will, before we leave, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you're celebrating. More stuff like Armageddon. I want more stuff like Armageddon for sure.
Hold on. Are we going to do a Christmas sing-along to end off the after party?
We are not going to. No, we're getting out of here. I'm going to stop